Empty airports, abandoned luxury malls, and tourists leaving the country in a panic. In recent weeks and months, videos have kept appearing that make it look as if Dubai is practically turning into a ghost town.
The streets are empty here in Dubai. No one is outside. Look, no one is outside.
And in fact, these influencer videos are not just clickbait. Dubai really is beginning to lose its status as the key hotspot between Europe, Africa, and Asia. Because the war with Iran and its consequences have already changed Dubai forever, and there are even other cities already working at full speed to replace Dubai as the new go-to city for expats. But let's start with the most important question first. How exactly is the war with Iran affecting Dubai? And perhaps even more importantly, why is the situation not recovering, but actually seems to be getting worse? To understand why Dubai is being hit so hard right now, you first have to know that until February of this year, the emirate had actually never been the target of military attacks. For more than 4 decades, Dubai had successfully established itself as a safe haven, meaning an absolutely secure refuge in an otherwise unstable region. And until now, it was known above all for its extreme luxury. But that is now over. During Iran's massive retaliatory strikes in the spring of 2026, more than 500 ballistic missiles and more than 2,200 combat drones were fired at the United Arab Emirates. And even though the missile defense systems were able to intercept many of them, images of burning debris crashing down onto residential neighborhoods naturally went around the world. Suddenly, everyone realized that Dubai was no longer safe. After all, who wants to live in an active war zone? Fortunately, these drones killed very few people, but they seriously damaged extremely critical infrastructure in the city. It was not only supply facilities that were hit. A huge Amazon data center, for example, was also attacked by drones. The attack on the data center then triggered a serious chain reaction because Amazon itself immediately advised its customers to avoid all servers in the Middle East. Dubai, however, was just in the process of establishing itself as a major player in the AI data center business, and it signed contracts for enormous facilities for US companies. The future of these multi-billion-dollar facilities is now in danger because foreign companies no longer see Dubai as a safe location for the future. And that led to a small wave of people leaving the city. Top companies from the financial world were also completely shaken by the attacks on the city. As early as March, giant Wall Street banks and consulting firms such as Citigroup, Goldman Sachs, PwC, and Deloitte ordered the official evacuation of their offices in the Dubai International Financial Center and the Oud Metha district. Even Standard Chartered decided to pull out, even though the bank generates around 6% of its global income in the Emirates. The fact that all these important companies have now left Dubai or are planning to leave the city is currently causing the Emirate to slowly lose its position as an international financial center. But there are also other reasons why Dubai is now dying out. Dubai is a desert city, it produces almost nothing itself, and therefore has to import, for example, 80 to 90% of all its food. Most goods arrive through the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow bottleneck at sea. But this exact strait has effectively been blocked by the conflict. And that in turn also hit the real foundation of Dubai's economy hard, namely the oil trade. Because the tankers were stuck in the Gulf, the price of Brent crude oil shot up in record time to an unbelievable $126 per barrel. Out of sheer desperation, the Emirati leadership then instructed the state oil company ADNOC to push ahead at maximum speed with the expansion of a second massive pipeline, the Fujairah pipeline. The goal is to pump oil from the Habshan fields deep inland directly to the east coast on the Gulf of Oman, so that the country no longer has to depend on the Strait of Hormuz. But as you can probably imagine, a mega project like this is not only enormously expensive, it also cannot be completed overnight. Even more dramatic, and another reason why more and more people are leaving Dubai, is the acute food emergency. Because right now, Dubai simply seems to be running out of food. This is again connected to the Strait of Hormuz because Dubai normally receives almost its entire food supply through this sea route. But the Strait of Hormuz is currently being avoided almost completely for food transports. So instead, ships have to head for the United Arab Emirates alternative ports. But there is a huge problem with that because the ports on the east coast, such as Khor-Fakkan and Fujairah, are relatively tiny and completely overwhelmed by all the imports. Together, they still cannot even handle 5 million standard containers. For comparison, before the crisis, the currently blocked megaport of Jebel Ali handled almost 20 million all by itself. All of this has catastrophic consequences for Dubai's residents. Prices for vegetables, fruit, and meat in Dubai's supermarkets have completely exploded. Major retail chains such as Lulu Retail have actually even had to charter dozens of cargo planes to fly in food from Africa or India at outrageously high prices. Alternatively, food is being transported through extremely long refrigerated truck routes from the distant Saudi Arabian port of Jeddah on the Red Sea, just so the shelves do not remain completely empty. But if we are honest, Dubai no longer depends only on oil today, and even if food becomes more expensive there, many residents have enough money to spend more on groceries. What Dubai depends on at all costs, however, is tourists, and this is where the numbers become truly frightening because Dubai's tourism is currently very far from normal, and in some areas the word ghost town is not even that exaggerated. When the war began, Dubai really did feel completely deserted. Data shows that hotels were no longer 80 to 90% full, but only around 20%. That is even lower than during the coronavirus pandemic. The numbers have improved in the meantime, but the hotels are still so empty that many of the best-known resorts, such as Palm Jumeirah, are even closing off large parts of their buildings and having them renovated. Things also look grim for the city's many restaurants. Because of the extremely high food prices and low visitor numbers, many restaurant owners report that they have had to lay off even half of their staff or reduce the menu to just a few dishes.
Our food cost is up, our overall business level is down, and we just have to keep going.
But the biggest problem for Dubai's tourism industry is connected to Dubai Airport, because DXB Airport is the absolute heart of Dubai's tourism industry, and therefore also of Dubai's economy itself. And since the beginning of the war, it has been operating in a kind of emergency mode. Dubai needs DXB Airport. It was in fact the busiest international airport in the world, and therefore the ultimate hub between Europe, Asia, and Africa. But in March 2026, passenger numbers then collapsed by an unimaginable 65.7%. Cargo volume also crashed, and the huge terminals, especially terminals 1 and 2, now resemble ghost towns. By the way, the reason for this is not only flight cancellations caused by drone attacks on the airport grounds, but also so-called war risk insurance. Because it has now become so dangerous to fly to Dubai, international airlines suddenly have to pay between $70,000 and $150,000 US in extra insurance per individual flight to Dubai. That often makes these routes completely unprofitable. The local airline Emirates does have a special state deal, and thanks to that, pays only around $100,000 per week for its entire fleet. But of course, a global airport cannot function with just one single airline. It also needs feeder flights from hundreds of international partners, and when those stop coming, the hub eventually collapses. And that brings us to a completely different phenomenon that could now perhaps deal Dubai the final blow, because there are actually two cities that had already been working even before the war to replace Dubai as the hub between Europe and Asia and to actively lure people away from the city. At the very front is Istanbul. Turkey is currently ruthlessly taking advantage of Dubai's weakness to promote its new Istanbul Financial Center. The Turkish government is actively working to lure thousands of foreign companies away from Dubai and into Istanbul. To do that, it is offering extremely lucrative incentives. Anyone who comes to Istanbul, for example, pays 0% tax on transit business. To attract wealthy Western expats from Dubai, Istanbul has recently even started offering a complete tax exemption on foreign income for an unbelievable 20 years. And this aggressive tactic is already working well. Numerous Asian and Western financial institutions are already negotiating a move to Istanbul and the relative safety of the Bosphorus. Istanbul Airport is also already a huge international hub, and it is currently being expanded even further, which suddenly makes flights via Dubai significantly less attractive, especially from a European perspective. After all, who wants to fly through an airport that might come under fire? And even if the drone attacks decrease, the fear alone is already enough to make people choose another airport. That is exactly why another country is now also betting on replacing Dubai's airport. And that country is Ethiopia. The East African country is currently developing Bishoftu International Airport, a mega project designed for 100 million passengers per year. The brilliant advantage is that Bishoftu lies high up on a plateau, which is especially good for fuel consumption. Ethiopia is already the hub for international flights to Africa. And with Bishoftu, the country wants to connect Europe, Africa, and Asia without having to fly through the dangerous airspace over the Persian Gulf. So if the situation in the Middle East escalates further again, it may well be that in the future, you will have to fly from Europe via Ethiopia or Istanbul if you want to reach Asia safely. And even here, the competition still does not end, because Italy now also wants to attract Dubai's especially wealthy residents, influencers, the super rich, and crypto millionaires with a special offer, namely an aggressive flat tax of 300,000 euros. So no matter how much money you earn, you only have to pay 300,000 euros in taxes, which could sound especially interesting to Dubai's extremely wealthy residents. But what will happen to Dubai now? The city itself and all its attractions will, of course, still exist in the coming years. But the entire Dubai model was simply based for decades on the illusion that a rich, glittering city could completely seal itself off from the chaos of the Middle East. And that illusion has now died. So, not exactly good prospects. Or what do you think? Will Dubai ever recover from this shock? Or will cities like Istanbul and Riyadh now actually take over for good? Feel free to write your opinion in the comments. We are curious to hear what you think.